Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Real Estate Role Playing Group, week number 2021-39. So it's the 39th week in the year 2021. So I want to share with you guys what's going on in this week's schedule. And then I want to share with you how to open a conversation. One of the most important things about prospecting, about lead follow-up, about communication in general is the opening. And what we want to do is make sure that you're embedding the way that we naturally communicate in your everyday conversation so that you can actually build rapport much faster. So let's go over the schedule first. So right here we have the Scripts group. Scripts group goes, as you know, Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock a.m. Starting next week, we're going to have the options. We're going to start frequencing, or not frequencing, but we're going to start randomizing the different scripts for the day. But for this week, Monday's past clients, center of influence, also known as your database or your long game. Tuesday, we're going to be focused on for sale by owner. Not a whole lot of for sale by owners in a lot of different markets, but there are for sale by owners. You need to be working on that demographic. Wednesday, scripts around just sold. Thursdays is scripts expired listings. And then Friday is we're going to be focusing on the incoming buyer call. Now, as you heard me before, we focus on having a listing-based business. Now, as having a listing-based business, what you want to do is make sure that you're prepared for the buyer call. After all, the point of actually listing a property is to get buyers to call you. Now, you actually have to work out your talk track to get to convert them either A, to buy that house, or B, represent them to buy another house. So scripts is 8 o'clock Monday through Friday. As we go into objection handling, 9 o'clock a.m., here's what we have. We have Monday. We can always come down on the price later. Common objection. Tuesday. You don't handle prices in my price range. Or do you? Or does your company? Do you know how to handle that? Well, let's practice it. Wednesday. We're not ready yet. How often have you gotten this? We're not ready yet. That might be a blow off. It might be a blow off. It might be a personality trait. Who knows? But you have to practice it, because I can promise you that if you don't practice it, you're practicing on your client. And depending on what your average sales price is, there's probably a hefty commission that you're actually costing on that practice. On Thursday, we are going into, I've seen this marketing plan before. What makes yours so different? Now, here's the interesting thing with that. We've seen this marketing plan before. What makes yours so different? Look, from the eyes of the consumer, real estate agents are real estate agents are real estate agents are real estate agents, right? They're all vanilla. What is it about your value proposition? What is unique to you? What is unique to your company that actually provides value to the consumer, to the seller? If you haven't figured that out yet, you really need to do a deep dive. If all you're doing is competing on price, and you're not competing on differentiating yourself on the service that you provide, then you really need to pause here and you need to focus on your value proposition. But on Thursday, how to rebuttal that. On Friday, we're going to work in, if I list my home with you and I buy my next home through you, will you reduce your commission? Hey, look, that's a common objection. So you need to prepare yourself for it. Nothing wrong with a 2-for-1 deal. This is a business decision. But if you're going to have a business decision, make sure that you know how to address this. Make sure you know how to attack this so that you're prepared for the conversation. These conversations come up all the time. These are not objections that just randomly come up every now and then. These are very common. In fact, 90% of all objections are all relatively going to be the same. They're the same things one way or the other. So when we go into the listing sequence every Tuesday and Thursday, that's going to be at 1:30. On Tuesday, we do the pre-qualifying the listing presentation. And then on 1:30 on Thursday, we're focusing on your listing presentation. Here's a few things. The telephone, we're doing the pre-qualifying the listing presentation via telephone. Okay, you're pre-qualifying them to make sure that the investment of your time, that their motivation is there to actually go on the listing presentation. The listing presentation is done via Zoom. Here's what you should be doing, though, is that you should be preparing or have prepared your pre-listing packet. Your pre-listing packet is also a pre-sale packet, a pre-consultation packet. All of those general questions that everybody asks about everything should be in there so that you can reference it, so you're not at the listing presentation for several hours. In fact, your listing presentation shouldn't be taking longer than 45 minutes. Now, that's what's going on with the schedule this week. So we got scripts, objection handling, and the listing sequence. Let's talk about what I want you to focus on. Now, this week, I want you to focus on the opening of your talk track. Now, the opening of the talk track is the most important part of the conversation, because if you don't get past the first part, you're not going to have a chance to go to the middle or do a closing. You're not even going to have a chance to close, let alone if you don't open it right. So there are two main questions that you have to answer when somebody's answering the phone, and that is, who are you and what do you want? Now, I want you to think about this. When somebody calls you and it's an unidentified number, what's the first question that goes into your mind? Who's calling me? Okay, so that same thing has happened to the other person. Now, once they identify who's calling you, let's say that somebody calls you and it comes up on caller ID and you know who they are. Now you know who it is. What's the next question that you ask in your mind? Wonder what they want. What do they want? So the two questions that you have to answer to the consumer, whether you're prospecting, whether you're cold calling, whether you're lead follow-up, is who are you and what do you want? So let's talk about that. So as you're opening, the first thing is going to be, you're going to do an assumptive opening. You're going to assume that the person who is actually answering the phone is a person you're calling. And because for most people, from a psychological standpoint, someone's name is the favorite word that they like. They like hearing their own name. You're going to assume and address them by their first name. So the caller answers the phone and you say, "Hi, John." And then you're going to wait for them to answer. Now, there's only a few different options they can do. So they can say, "Yes, this is John." "No, this is John." Or "Who's this?" Right? Now, if they say who's, or if they say who, then that means it's the wrong number. But if they say yes, if they say who or who's calling, then two of those three, you know that it's actually the person you're calling. So you're going to do the assumptive opening. Then the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to do the how are you? How are you doing? That is embedded in our culture, that we automatically ask, how are you doing? So don't think that that's a throwaway question, because if you go against what is natural and a natural form of our communication, what's going to happen is that something's going to go off as something wrong in their subconscious. So you're going to do the assumptive opening. You're going to ask how they are. They're going to say fine. And then you're going to say, "Hey, the reason I'm calling is, look, the reason I'm calling is because your home came up on my computer as an expired listing, and I was wondering, are you going to be hiring another agent?" Or, "Hey, the reason I'm calling is because we just listed a home over on 123 Street. It's right down the road from your house. Do you know the property?" And they're going to say yes. And then you're going to go into the conversation. So the key is having the opening down. Assumptive opening. How are you? Tell them what you're calling for. "Hey, the reason I'm calling up is because we spoke last week and you said X, Y, and Z. And I just wanted to follow up and say if you're still looking to buy, or are you still looking to sell your property?" It's just that easy, guys. Okay, so focus on the openings, work on the scripts, go heavy onto the objections. Nobody ever signs a contract or a listing ever gets signed without having to answer a question or rebuttaling objection. So practice. You will never perform at a level higher than the level in which you practice. So if you want to go to that next level and you want to take those listings, practice. Practice makes perfect. So guys, that's all I got for this week, and I will see you next week.